I've kind of discovered something cool. And at first, I didn't know if there was any research to truly back it up, but then I started diving into it and I realized, wait a minute, there's a lot of research to back this up, but more importantly, just it makes biochemical sense. I'm talking about fat surging and then fat depriving, periods of high fat and periods of low fat. Now, I'll explain what that means, and it's actually pretty darn simple, and I just encourage you to give it a shot for a couple of weeks. And just full disclaimer, this is for information purposes only. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to tell you to do something specific. I don't know. I tell you things that I do that work, and then I research them and vet them out. So anyhow, let's get into the science.
I also put a link down below for 30% off Thrive Market. Thrive Market is an online membership-based grocery store, but if you're looking for fun, kind of healthier options, especially when it comes down to processed food, like you're saying, hey, I would rather opt for siete chips that are using cassava instead of regular corn chips. Or hey, I want a macaroni and cheese that doesn't have the preservatives in it. Or maybe I want to get some like dehydrated vegetable snacks. It's the place for you. And you can sort by different diet type and all this stuff. They've been a sponsor on this channel for years. So full disclaimer, yes, they're a sponsor, but you supporting them supports this channel. So again, that link is in the top line of the description for 30% off your entire grocery order, plus a free gift when you use that special link down below.
So what I mean by fat surging, you should have periods of time where you elevate your fats quite high and then drop them low on a ketogenic diet. Now, there's a couple of different reasons. And the first very simple reason has to do with something I've talked about before and something I've done with my own self-experimentation, and that's the activation of a specific receptor protein known as PPAR alpha. I'm not going to waste a lot of time with that, but basically, this is a receptor protein that gets activated and released into the body or elevated only when you are utilizing your own stored tissue. It happens a lot with fasting, but it also happens a lot with the ketogenic diet if your body is releasing free fatty acids. Okay, operative words there, releasing. If you're eating a bunch of fats at that point in time, it's not releasing as much PPAR alpha because you're not releasing fats into the bloodstream, you're consuming them exogenously. Catch my drift? So we need to have periods of time where we force the body to release this fat into the bloodstream. So we have the elevation of PPAR alpha. Once PPAR alpha is elevated, we have a chain reaction of gene expression that occurs. PPAR alpha triggers gene expression. It triggers uncoupling proteins. It triggers the body to potentially increase its body heat. That's the whole one side. Okay, the bigger side of research that we've been looking into is that of what is called HCAR2. Now this is dense stuff, so I'm going to abbreviate it because I think if you just get the simple takeaway and practical application of this, you're going to have results. So I'll tell you the science, but I'll make it simple. You see, when you consume a bunch of fats, you activate something known as the hydroxycarboxylic acid receptor, HCAR2. This HCAR2 is all fine and dandy, okay, and it has its own benefits. Like, this is a good thing. But when you consume a bunch of fats, you still do reduce fatty acid burning or fat burning, lipolysis in your body. It's just a natural response. You consume a bunch of fats and your body does that, right? Well, what's really wild is we're seeing now in the research is that our bodies have the ability to regulate our own ketone production based on how many ketones are in the bloodstream. So simple idea. This is very just big picture. Let's say you have a bunch of fats on Monday. Okay, you consumed a ton of fats and your body's creating ketones from those fats. Well, then your ketone levels in your blood are very high. Well, it turns out that your body has a way of sensing by way of the HCAR2 that you have so much ketones in the bloodstream, so it tells the liver to stop producing them. It's probably a protective mechanism in a lot of ways to make sure you don't get your ketones too high. Your ketones are already high. Why on earth would the liver want to produce more? Well, up until recently, we didn't know that this even existed. We didn't know there was a feedback loop. We didn't know there was a feedback mechanism. Turns out ketones have the ability to self-regulate. So if your ketone levels are high, the next day you might not burn that much fat because your body's not producing ketones as much. It won't produce them because it's going to work with what it's got in the bloodstream. Whoa, my mind is blown with that because that means that all the old science we used to look at, or the old theories I should say, where you want to just eat as much fat as you can to stimulate your body to produce more, doesn't quite work like that. You eat a bunch of fats and all of a sudden your body will say, oh, well, I've got enough ketones, so I'm just gonna shut the process down and send everyone home for the day, and then you're just left at a stall with what you got from the day prior. So what you might wanna do is occasionally have the fats be high, so that yes, you do get the ketone benefit, and you do allow the liver to utilize it that way, but then you also wanna have a couple day period where you go low fat. You still keep it low carb, you still keep everything the same, except you drop the fats down so that the liver continues the production of ketones, so that it doesn't get lazy and send everyone home. That way, you're not only activating the PPAR alpha, but you're also slowing down that activation of the hydroxycarboxylic acid receptor. So in other words, you're allowing your body to create more ketones, but from your stored body fat. So the simple thing I would want you to try, and it's a great plateau buster, is to go 2 days of moderate fat keto like you normally would do, and then do 2 days of reduced fat keto. Just drop your fats 20%, 30%. It doesn't need to be any rocket science, doesn't need to be super mathematical. Just consciously drop your fat and maybe increase your protein a little bit, and then 2 days on, 2 days off. Just try it. It's experimental, but I think you'll have some good success with it. And the science backs it up. It's pretty interesting. Anyhow, that's it for today. See you tomorrow.